Good evening and welcome everybody. Welcome to the latest installment of The Source, the radio program for 107.9 Radio Fremantle in Perth in Western Australia, and also associated with, in tandem, unified front with AbundantHope.net. Fantastic site, fantastic organization, and a readily available tool for you in your own unfoldment and your own opening of the mind to the world in which we live in. And now is the time to do that, believe you me. Now, again, we are very lucky to see the return of a very, very, very special individual, Miss Hazel Sinanan. She was on the radio program with me a time before, and she has very graciously agreed to come back and revisit the program and myself, Benjamin, for another episode of The Source. Welcome back, Hazel.
Thank you very much, Benjamin. I'm most pleased to be here.
Well, it's fantastic that you agreed to come on again, and I'm really looking forward to having another chat with you. Now, when we spoke last, a little background for those who are not too familiar with Hazel. Hazel's based in London in the UK. She is, well, until very recently, a practicing solicitor and lecturer at law. And she has since, well, she's set that aside, I believe, for the time, because she's decided to commit fully and totally to her mission and to her new work that has to do with what celestial healing, above other things, among other things. She has two websites, Path to Freedom is Truth. That's one word altogether, lowercase, no space. Path to Freedom is Truth.com. Fantastic collection of channeled information, spiritual wisdom, and insights from the celestial realm. A real jewel of a website. You really need to check that out. And her latest and I might mention possibly the most important website of her current work is the celestialhealing.org website there. Now, Hazel, can you give us a brief insight again about what exactly you do as a celestial healer?
Yes, I offer a range of alternative energetic healing modalities, which include or comprises of angelic Reiki, whereby I channel the healing energies directly from the angelic kingdom of light through to the client who has come for some energetic healing, so to speak. I also engage in theta healing, and I'm a certified hypnotherapist, but more recently I have gone a stage beyond that, whereby I was trained by internationally renowned Dolores Cannon, and I practice what is called quantum healing hypnosis therapy, whereby I am able to, using her technique, to regress the client to a past life that is most appropriate for them, so that their questions, the questions that they have in this life, could be resolved. And then I work with what's called their subconscious to do some healing also on their physical and emotional bodies. Apart from that, I was trained by Toby Alexander to do what is called aura clearing or auric cleansing, which I can do via Skype. So it doesn't matter where in the world you are. It really involves the removal of energetic blockages within our etheric system or energetic centers, which we call chakras, that if we allow to fester there, can actually preclude us or impede us from accessing higher gateways to consciousness. So in summary, those are the main healing modalities that I offer. I also do angelic and higher self readings. And when I say readings, I don't mean ordinary readings. I simply mean channeling divine guidance from the angelic and archangelic kingdom of light, as well as from other higher celestial beings, including the client's higher self.
Right. And I see, I mean, just taking a quick look at your website here, the celestialhealing.org site, aura clearing, theta healing, as you've mentioned, angelic Reiki, hypnotherapy, quantum healing, hypnosis, angel reading, angel Reiki. I mean, spiritual teaching, counseling, it's quite a plethora of incredible options for improving yourself and opening your mind and healing and all these different modalities of practice of healing. I mean, there's so much to choose from, but it really seems to me that, would you say that this kind of therapy and this kind of healing, this kind of work that you're doing now, do you find that in the public arena it's becoming more, shall we say, accepted? It's becoming more acceptable, or of that vein? Do you think it's becoming more common to the mainstream, this kind of healing?
Yes, indeed it is, because as we as a civilization go through a shift in consciousness, in other words, our awareness is opening or awakening more. People are going back to the cause. They are not, they're not going to be distracted so much by the effects. They are looking for the cause. And in seeking the cause, they're seeking the truth. And they're coming to the realization that everything in this creation is made up out of energy. Everything is energy. So if there is a disease or an ailment or an issue or problem in life, typically it is caused by some sort of energetic imbalance. And therefore, in truth, it is only an energetic rebalance that can recreate the harmony. So the time has come where we need to stop trying to put plasters symptoms and go directly to the cause, because in seeking the cause we will get the truth of the matter, and then we could attend to it.
I see. I see. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the interview, that you had recently been in a solicitor and a lecturer at law, and it's we had mentioned this before, but since we talked last in the last interview, we're still working, and now you've left that field to focus mainly on this healing work and mission that you've taken on. Do you find that now that you've moved into this other room, how has it been? How has the transfer or the transition been for you? Are you feeling more comfortable now in this new work that you're doing, fully encompassing your life?
Yes, indeed. I feel very relaxed. I feel very, very connected. I don't have the stresses and strains of and the demands that I had to face before. I had to work with both my left brain and right brain before, because I've been combining the
Yes.
legal work, my spiritual work. But now I can dedicate myself to my healing and teaching mission, because this I have been called and I have answered that call, and I'm totally committed towards working with the divine to assist humanity during this very, very crucial time in the Earth's sort of cycle, I would say.
And you mentioned as well this critical time, and now that the consciousness of humanity is shifting in order to make this work that you're doing much more poignant and necessary than ever before. Is it I mean, I've done this aura clearing. You were very kindly made your service available to me, because I was so very curious about it. I'd never had the experience before. I had an angel reading with you. I had an aura clearing with you, and I've never had, like I said, anything of the sort. And you did it over Skype. And talking about energy and the way in which you work directly with it, I couldn't think of a better example than the way that I sat in front of a computer screen with you in London, in the UK, and me in Perth in Western Australia. You connected with me energetically, so much so that the work you did in the healing of my auric fields, my astral bodies, all these aspects to my being, I was able to physically feel, I felt in my body. And it's so hard to explain it to someone who's never had the experience before, but physically within my being felt the way in which you somehow manipulated or worked towards healing the problem centers of my fields and these things. I mean, it's absolutely, to describe it as out of this world is quite accurate, because for the most part what we understand this world to be in the materialistic sense is not sufficient to describe what happened. I think it's definitely something that takes a lot of courage for a lot of people these days, because they haven't had, for the most part, any experience with this type of thing. Have you had experiences so far with people who've never had this type of therapy before, and how did they generally take this new modality of healing? How did they handle it?
Yes, well, everyone who I did a healing for using oral clearing, they have never had this type of clearing before.
Right.
And like you, their experience is quite similar because they were able to feel what was going on whilst I was actually undertaking the clearing.
Mm. Mm.
Validation enough for them to come to the conclusion that this really does work. And I always say to my clients that the non-locality law of quantum physics says that time and space does not exist and everything is energy.
Mm.
All right. So matter is simply energy coalesced. So again, I would reiterate that you have to experience it to actually know that it is real and it can be done. And it's not just in the doing and the feeling of it, but it is the results that you feel after the process that really matters.
Yes, yes, of course. And I think one of the most incredible aspects is, again, because of our generally the experience of mankind on this planet as it is right now, where we think that in order to be healed it somehow involves a surgeon and a scalpel and, the removal of something, remove this organ, or some kind of incredibly brutalizing of the body in most cases in terms of fixing people or healing disease or anything like that, where what you're offering is completely benign in a sense. You're working on a level, on an energetic level that does not materialistically affect the body per se, but it's this subtle realm, these subtle energies that, as you say, are the cause in most cases of the malaise, the disease, the physical dysfunction, whatever it is. It really is dealing with something that doesn't affect the body in a malignant way or a obtrusive way. Is that right?
That's correct. And all the different types of healing modalities that I offer, whenever I am settling down to do a session for someone, I always prepare my environment and myself, and I always have either the ascended masters in the form of the Great White Brotherhood or the archangelic or angelic realm overlight it, because always have I been taught, and I espouse this very firmly, that I wish to be of highest service to my client. What I'm doing is for their highest and best interest. So
Mm.
that is paramount.
Right, right, exactly. And like I said, this experience that I had has really, well, in a very big way, influenced the way I've thought about what's happened and my understanding of the nature of the reality in which we live, and even those manners of subtle energy that we don't come into contact with in our daily life. You've seemed to have such a strong grasp of, and I just wanted to, on a personal note, this interview is not about necessarily your personal work per se, but I would strongly suggest anyone listening to the program, if you would like to contact Hazel, I would highly recommend it. Even if you just contact the celestialhealing.org website there's numerous contacts to contact Hazel. Have a chat with her, have a talk, explore an option, explore a reality that for the most part has been left untouched for the longest time, but will become a much more prominent part of everybody's lives as we become a more evolved species and civilization. So definitely visit celestialhealing.org and have a chat to Hazel and see what she can do for you. She's got something for everybody. Now, Hazel, let's move
Yeah.
into some gritty stuff here. You've got a lot to talk about tonight, and you have a fair amount of teaching material to get through, so we won't spend too much more time on other things. But I just wanted to check here. We're going to be discussing a few things about the law of balance and is it then a natural law of balance? Is a divine law of balance? What law of balance are you talking about here?
Well, the law of balance is a universal law of balance, which really is natural law, meaning the law of nature and the law of creation, which hasn't actually been given to man fully, or if it has, there have been those who have tampered with that law to tip the scale in their favor so that they could maintain control. So yes, the law of balance is the law of nature. It is the law of creation, which the divine has given to mankind on earth so that balance could basically materialize or be the result of all interchanges, all actions, all reactions.
Yeah, and speaking about balance, even just you mentioning the law of balance, when we look around us, especially those who listen to this show, would be more attuned to that than most. We definitely are suffering, it would seem, right now for the largest part from an absence of any kind of balance, whether that be natural balance, divine balance, balance within ourselves, balance within our societies. We really are out of control, isn't it?
That's indeed correct. And that's because man either doesn't understand the law of balance or does not know how to work in accordance and in harmony with the law of balance to create and sustain balance and harmony.
Mm. Can we talk?
Okay? Yes, go ahead, sorry.
No, no. I was just going to say, would love to hear a lot more in terms of the way you might describe balance. I think when we look at the way we're treating our environment, when we look at the way we're treating each other, when we're looking the way in which the nature itself is being exploited, damaged beyond all repair, there's alarm bells going off, even amongst intellectuals, amongst government bodies, even amongst the people. There's talk, but it seems almost like a state of desperation where we cannot seem to pull back or come back from the brink. Is it something that we need to incorporate this balance into our own lives first to affect the greater, starting with our personal selves
Definitely.
first?
Definitely, because it is man who creates his environment around him. And if he is not in balance, that which he creates will reflect his nature. The choices he makes will reflect his nature. So he must understand at the primal level what this law of balance is, how it works, and how he can work with it to create a harmonious environment to live in. You know, I remember the saying, in vain we build a city before we build the man. Well, we must build the man by educating him on what the laws of balance and laws of truth are.
Okay.
So that currently I firmly believe that those who wish to maintain control have done so by keeping the masses in ignorance of the full truth of the laws.
Yeah.
But this law is the truth, and this law, as in all God's laws, are inviolate. And if the law is violated, whether or not one accepts that there is such a law, unpleasant consequences will be experienced. These consequences are a direct result of breaching the law. And they are not punishment, the consequences are not punishment inflicted by God, but the punishment man inflicts upon himself by breaching the very law he is meant to comply or abide with. So man must remember, when I say man, I simply mean man and woman.
Yeah.
Man must remember that to every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. So if you take action that breaches the law, and I will speak of the law of balance, then the law will equally react. So to give an analogy that perhaps your audience will understand, if a man-made law is breached, let us say that a person was driving dangerously and recklessly, and this caused the death of a pedestrian. Now, driving dangerously and recklessly is against the law, man-made law, and so is killing a person. So how does the law respond? How does the law react? The law will respond by punishing the offender. In this case, with perhaps a custodial sentence, meaning imprisonment. That is, the punishment is loss of freedom through incarceration. So the divine law works in a similar manner. If you breach the law, you violate the law will respond equally. And you end up hurting yourself because the consequences will not be one that you will like or one that will be in your highest interest.
No, that makes sense. And this natural law, I'm interested as well. The history of the natural law. You mentioned that for the largest part, this natural law, this law of God, this divine law, it's been manipulated. It's been hidden. It's been largely forgotten and misunderstood for the largest part in our recent memory. But There has been time in the history of mankind, at least on this planet, where the natural law has been followed and abided by, right? I mean, for example, the American Indians, they're one of the examples that come to mind, were greater followers and stricter followers to a natural law. Is that accurate?
Indeed, that is correct.
Hmm. I think it's difficult. I think you talk about consequence as well, not necessarily being punishment or, in a way, but just simply a consequence of your action. There is a reaction, and there must be. And I think for the most part, people understand that and would reconcile that, even in as much as our modern science would dictate that there is a positive. There's an equal reaction to every action. But in terms of consequence, in terms of suffering the punishment, I don't know, Hazel. For the largest part, it seems like there's a lot being done against the law of nature, and yet not the requisite reaction on behalf of the natural law. Would you think that's accurate? I mean, it doesn't seem like there's a lot going on right now by factions and certain countries and certain behaviors that don't seem to have any consequence that we can see. Do you think that's a
Okay.
prevalent sign of the time?
Well, it depends on what you mean by consequences. So, uh, you are thinking if they are acting against the law, something should respond to them so that they could feel the consequences themselves.
Yeah,
Is that what
yeah, yeah.
I think that you're looking at it from a macro point of view. So let's look at it from instead of a karmic point of view, which is what they're creating in any event, negative karma when they do this. Let's look at it from the micro point of view. Let's say that God has given man free will
Hmm.
and he exercised this free will in accordance with his nature. Now, if he could align his nature with the nature of God, he would realize that all things should be balanced and therefore his creations should be in balance. But if he fails to do so and he acts in accordance with his own will, and he determines to take some form of action that violates the law, those who act the consequences of his violation of the law is that others suffer. There is misfortune, there is disease, there are wars, things of that nature.
Mm, mm.
In terms of the greater consequences to those who actually cause the problem itself, I would say, from a macro point of view, that has to do more with the consequence of karma, what they will have to face eventually to rebalance their actions. But you have to remember that we are all part of the collective consciousness. And in so doing, we must take responsibility. So let us look at those who we say cause or create the war. So we can blame the politicians for making the decision, but who has put the politicians in, who has put them in power?
We
You
have.
follow what I'm
Yeah.
Okay? So we cannot not take responsibility at some level. We are all contributors. Even by being passive, we are contributors.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there is a price to passivity, and passivity has nothing to do with keeping the peace. Passivity here means inaction,
Yeah.
not taking the necessary action to ensure that balance is sustained.
Right.
Do you understand where I'm coming from?
Yes, I do. I do. And this whole aspect of responsibility, I think, is dramatically important and something that still, for the largest part, people are refusing to understand in their role in taking a personal responsibility for everything that goes on around them and understand their integral relationship with that, as they have to give their consent. They allow what they allow, and they should understand that they have the power of choice. And even when it's almost like they don't have a choice, there is always a choice, and that choice will have its action and these things. I want to speak a bit more relationship, but first, can you, if you're comfortable to do so, when you talk about natural law, when you talk about divine law and the law of God, can you give some examples of, I mean, if it's possible to do that, what are some examples of natural law or divine law or the laws of God? Can you give some actual examples of that?
Yeah, there are many examples that can be given. It's like, for example, and I want to speak in very layman terms here so that
Yeah.
your audience can understand. It's like treat your neighbor as you would yourself. All
Okay.
right. Do
Right.
unto others as you have others do unto you. You know, it's basically a reflection of what we know to be the commandments, with the exception that the commandments are given in brief. They're not fleshed out for man to really understand, and they're not
Right.
given fully.
Right.
So, and you should not kill. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
That's another one. You should not kill your brother or sister because you're all part of that of the one.
Mm.
So those are just some examples, a couple examples of natural law. But all of those examples, together with others, all were given so that man could live a balanced life.
Understand. And I mean, these laws, for the largest part, I mean, are associated when you talk about the Ten Commandments. These commandments are associated with the Catholic religion. This figure, this Jesus Christ figure that, for the most part of the 7 billion member community on this planet, at least, understand who that gentleman was. Some believe in the veracity of that story of the Bible, some don't. I mean, but these natural laws are not associated with any religion as we know them.
No, no. A
No.
man must see himself outside of the context of religion. Man must see himself as spirit that comes from the divine.
Mm.
Okay, so I'm talking about the divine consciousness here, of which we are part. Religion has nothing to do with it. Again, religion has confused man. It has been given to confuse man, to create division and separation and segregation. So man is lost in that haze of, well, this is what I should believe in, this is what my faith tells me, without actually searching and seeking for the truth.
Okay, so religion doesn't necessarily have anything to do with what you're talking about.
No, I'm not speaking about religion. I'm simply saying that if to make it understandable for your audience, what might be akin to the Ten Commandments bear a similarity to what the natural laws are. Obviously, the natural laws go way and beyond that which is given,
Mm.
and it is recorded. It is recorded in different texts that God has sent His sons and daughters several times to assist mankind and to give the word, which is the law, which is the truth, several times, and it is published for those who are seekers of truth. If they go with sincerity and intent and they ask to be guided to these laws, to the truth of the divine laws, they will be led to it.
Mm. Yes. Yes. Okay. Well, that's clear. So religion is not necessarily involved, but this natural law is almost in a sense it's a. When I think of the Ten Commandments, and they're what they're most commonly known as, but as you've made very clear, it's not necessarily to do with religion. But these commandments, these laws, I mean, they're very sensible. They're very logical. They're very
Yes.
common sense. It's not complex. It's not difficult. It's not filled with bylaws and subsections and annotations and these things. And this is, I think, one thing I think that some people find hard to swallow and hard to take it seriously because, for instance, our human law, which is not the same thing as natural law or divine law, is so very complex in its aspects and so difficult. And there's all this legislation and there's all these, like I said, there's this complex annotations, subsections, all these things. But this human law is not divine law. It's not associated with what's necessarily natural, is it? There's no
No,
necessarily comparison there.
no, it's not aligned with divine law, but the law of balance as to use your words, is a common sense law. And I want to, during the course of the next hour or so, to actually explain by giving examples to your audience how practical this law is. As you rightly said, it's not difficult, it's not complex, it's not rocket science. It's so very simple. It's just that man hasn't really it hasn't really been explained to humanity how the law works and what the basis of the law is. And that is what I want to teach today, what the basis of the law is and how it works and how we can use it in our daily lives to create balance and harmony.
Well, I think that's a fantastic way to start. Then maybe we can move into that right now.
Okay, so what is this law of balance? From a universal perspective, it is simply premised on love, which is the highest form of frequency or energy. The law of love is the basis of creation, and love is thus the basis of spirit. And as man in his primacy or true form is spirit, then love is man's basis also. And the type of love that I speak of is the love that centers all things and creates balance and harmony. And when I was interviewed on the last occasion, I spoke about oneness with God and how that divine energy is our centering consciousness.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm speaking about. That divine energy is the center, is love. So love is at the center of man. So this law of love, as I would call it, can in fact be seen as the law of balance, because the nature of God or the creator or the source, whichever name you wish to call it by, is to give out his love for regiving. That is what man does not understand because he hasn't been taught it. The law of balance or the law of love simply is that the love that God has given to man is meant to be re-given by man so that balance could sustain. So I want to show how the law of balance is expressed through God's love. Now, God projects his love to each of us. And if we desire to feel his presence, we must cause that same love that he gave to us to be given so that it can be returned to God. So what does this mean? It simply means that when we give love to another person, we cause that love to be returned to God as God is in each of his creation. So the love that God has given to us, if we give it to someone else through service or kindness or generosity, or in whatever way we give that love that is in the other person's highest and best interest, we are giving them the love that God has given to us, and we have attained the presence of God. Therefore, we see the law of balance in work. It is really a cycle of giving and re-giving because we are all one. Do you follow?
I'm following.
But if we keep the love that God gives us and instead act with selfishness towards another, there is no balance. And what is created is bad feeling, resentment, etc., which could lead to decline in relationships and breakups. So if we do not re-give the love that God has re-given to us, unbalanced consequences and disharmony results. So the very fact that we are here on earth, Ben, is a blessing to us from God. And we are constantly being fed and nourished by God's love. He's constantly giving us love because he centers us. He is love. We are constantly in the midst of love. But we cannot attain and feel his presence if we do not cause that love to be re-given. It is only in the re-giving of that love that we can retain, maintain, and sustain balance. Because what we are doing when we are kind to others is that they in turn will be kind to someone else. Okay? You obtain or feel the fulfillment in the service you render. So it's a cycle of giving and re-giving. And you give to them, but they give back to you through the feeling that you get, and they are kind or giving or generous to another one, thereby causing them to feel the presence of God within themselves. So simply the law of balance is the law of love, which is premised on giving and re-giving. So giving love and re-giving love. When God gives us love, if we re-give in selfishness or hatred or anger, that is not re-giving. That is not in keeping with the law. Remember, every action we are contemplating or thinking should be measured against the law of balance to ensure that the reaction will be balanced. Going back to the original, what I said earlier on, to every action there is an equal, an opposite reaction.
I hear what you're saying, and it I can't help but reflect as you are speaking quite beautifully there about the law of love and giving and re-giving, but it does seem like we're missing much of that right here, right now, Hazel. I'm not seeing that right here, right now.
Okay, let me illustrate how the law of balance works perfectly in nature. Now, nature gives of its all in every action and re-gives equally in every reaction. And I personally, when I go on holiday, I usually tend to go somewhere very naturistic because I love the energy of nature. Why? Because it is balanced. And if I feel imbalanced, I could go into nature. Nature is so therapeutic because it's as if it is just so balanced that I cannot help but come back into equilibrium.
That's true.
So I saw this law working in nature. I saw this at work when I even recently went on holiday. I saw how the sun gave life and beauty to the ocean, and how the ocean gave of its love by providing a home and sustenance for the sea animals and plants. I saw how the sun's rays shone on the plants, which was used by the plants to create oxygen, which the plants regave so that other life forms could benefit from it. I observed how the sun and the rain nurtured the trees so that they could remain vibrant, and in turn the trees regave of its love by providing shelter for the little creatures. Now, I could go on and on and on, but the point is that nature does not violate God's law of balance, which is giving for equal regiving. Nature is an extension of God, and thus the balance of nature cannot be upset unless man interferes with it. And we know how man has interfered with nature and has upset its balance.
Yes, very much.
So nature reflects God in that it gives and never takes. And you know what? I get really sometimes, I feel fearful for people when I hear them say, God gives and takes away. God giveth and God taketh away. That is totally false, because God never takes, because he will never violate his own law. And his own law is based on giving and regiving. So, when people die, you would hear the preacher or the priest says, well, the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh.
Yes.
Well, I'm sorry, that is false. That is a lie. We are given life, and at the end of our incarnation, we regive our life to God that he may regive life again. That's how the law of balance works. God never violates his own law. Never does. And we must learn never to violate the law of God, but also work within the confines of the law. It will always be in our highest and best interest. And you know what? We must be seekers of the truth in order to receive truth and live that truth. Too many live the truth of what they have been taught by others. I say to everyone, go to God in prayer or meditation and seek the truth. The truth will always feel light in your body, especially in your heart region. So I may be saying this now to you, Ben, and to your audience, that the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh is a complete falsity. And some people in your audience may at once take offense. I'm not saying they will, I'm saying they might, because the brain, which is an electrical recorder of that which we observe through our senses, which has no thinking power of its own, will at once rise up, and the person will pull out from a record that they have stored in their brain what they have been taught. And they have been taught through religion or through practice or, belief that the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh. And Hazel is speaking nonsense. All right?
Yeah.
Of course, you might say, well, God takes. After all, the priest or the preacher or reverend told me so.
Yeah.
Right. What I'm asking them is to not to tune into their brain, but to tune into their hearts, and through meditation and prayer seek the answer. I can tell you what I know God has taught me. I cannot make anyone know it. Each must seek his validation so that they know the truth within themselves. I simply ask that they be open-minded.
Well, that can be a challenge in and of itself, Hazel, but it's good advice. Can I ask you, when you speak about the brain has no thinking power, I don't want to take you too far off on your speaking, or what you're speaking of, but you mentioned the brain has no thinking power. It receives the electrical impulses, it observes, and it records it for regurgitation, but it does no thinking. For the most part, we understand brains to do the thinking, but that's not the case?
No, the mind thinks through and with the brain. The brain is simply a mechanism used by the mind.
Okay, the
And the
mind and the
mind
brain are separate.
is physical. The brain is physical. The mind is non-physical.
Okay. So brain is physical, mind is non-physical, and yet the two work together, is that right?
Yes, they should work together. So in fact, when people are able to connect with the higher mind and tap into the higher knowledge, that knowledge from the mind could feed the brain, and new matter and information could be recorded in the brain for recall. Do you follow? So
Yeah.
if, for example, I am connecting through meditation to the God mind, and the God mind gives to me wisdom, I record that wisdom in my brain so that when I'm teaching it, I can recall it at a later time. Do you follow?
Yes.
Instead of me keeping in my brain what I have been taught 20 years ago when I knew nothing about what I know now. Do you follow?
Yes.
So I grew up in religion. I knew all the teachings of religion. So therefore, that is what I knew. So anybody told me anything, that's what I pulled up from the storehouse of my brain. But I have been able to reprogram, my mind has been able to reprogram my brain because I have been able to actually tap into a higher consciousness. So that which I am recalling now is that which my mind has fed to my brain, not which a book has fed to my brain, not that which my outer senses have observed for the purpose of my brain recording for recall.
So you're basically saying that in effect, one who is connected with this God mind, which resides not within the brain but as a separate non-physical entity, one who can truly, without filtering, in pure connection, communicate with the God mind, need not read another book or another magazine or listen to another opinion. You can educate yourself through your higher mind and receive all that information with which you need to live and to work and to love.
Yes, yes, indeed. I'm not saying that the divine will not lead you to other people and material that contains higher knowledge. I'm simply saying that truth can only be obtained from inner validation, which can only be sourced from the higher mind. All right, I can tell you something, but you will not know that until you experience what I have experienced, and that is through communion with the God mind. You will not know it until it comes to you from that mind. Do you follow? It's
Yes,
an experience. Knowledge comes through an experience, through the communion between your mind and the mind of God,
right, right.
which we are all a part of.
Yes. Okay, no, that makes sense. I just wanted to clarify that because it's a powerful statement. This connection that you seem to have, Hazel, with your God mind, and you speak with such conviction and such passion and seemingly an innate sense of the wisdom and truthfulness of what you speak, and yet for the largest part it seems that you've found your own path and discovered these things in your own way, and for the most part we understand that that kind of education happens through universities or going to a priest or imam or some kind of spiritual or religious leader, and yet you seem to be self-empowering and self-informing and these incredible things. I mean, for in essence, you've recently you finished a book and you're about to publish your first book, and congratulations on that, by the way. What is it called? Have you chosen a title for it yet?
It's called The Path to Freedom's Truth. It's based on my mission, which is to educate the spirit of men through their minds so that their spirits can become emancipated and they can take that deliberate journey towards enlightenment. So it's educate, emancipate, and enlighten, to
Right.
basically inspire as many people as I can to find the divine within themselves so that they can be empowered by their true sovereign, innate sovereign nature. And they too can wear the mantle of the divine and go forward to re-inspire others. Because in re-inspiring others, they are re-giving that which God has given to them. And they are creating balance. And they are actually contributing to the ascension of the collective consciousness.
Right, and well, in the largest part, you're inspiring me right now. And this work, as you mentioned, is that you've done on Path to Healing, Path to Freedom is truth. A lot of that work is encompassed in the book, and a lot of that information has originated in your God mind, or this mind that exists in the non-material plane of your own.
Yeah.
And this, I mean, this is, I've read a lot of your material on this website, Path to Freedom is Truth. It's incredible stuff. It's jaw-dropping, it's inspiring, it's dripping with wisdom and knowledge and self-empowerment. And it's incredible to think that, it came from you, not to not to downplay your ability, but to come from one person. There has to be something at work. The evidence is obvious.
Yeah, it came through me. It came through me. So I was a channel for it. I always say I have the abilities, but I offer myself to God as a vehicle so that He can use my mind and my heart, my hands and my feet and my voice box to do His work. So I offer myself as a pure channel. And I always say, I of myself can do nothing. It is the Father within me that doeth the work. So yes, I do have abilities, but it's only as great as I allow the Father to use it to work through me, to do His work.
I understand, but nevertheless, I'm very excited to see this first book that you're publishing, and it goes to prove that there is incredible things afoot with your work, and I'm so excited to see it unfold as it may. Now, we're actually about 5 minutes away from the end of the first section of this interview. Funnily enough, we've been talking so much already. It goes so quickly when we're having fun. But I just wanted to ask if we can switch back to the conversation we were having about the law of balance. I'm sorry I took us on a tangent, but can you continue with a little bit for us there?
Of course. Yeah, so I want to talk about, the earth and balance. So the earth has given man habitation for the purpose of experience to assist in his soul growth. And how has man as a collective consciousness re-given to her? By excessive plundering of her resources, contaminating her oceans, polluting her atmosphere, poisoning her body through toxic chemicals and toxic thoughts. Man takes what nature offers without equal re-giving. If man regave equally, the earth would be balanced. Man exercises his free will to violate the laws of balance. And what is the outcome? The earth is ailing. But just as you or I will throw up and become violently ill if you put poison in our body, even unknowingly, let us say food poisoning, so will the earth become violently ill and respond in equal measure by throwing up in whatever way she sees fits. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. So if we defy the law of balance, even to the slightest extent, it will hurt us equally. When the earth becomes violently ill and throws up through earth movement to extreme weather, many people will suffer. All right? God has given man love, and when man chooses to create war out of greed or need to dominate and control others, what happens? There is untold bloodshed, loss of lives, pain and suffering and total disharmony. Even the earth's body suffers. But God gave man free will, and what they create is in their own image as it reflects them. If they choose to create in balance, that is, with balanced thinking, they are exercising their free will in accordance with the nature of God, which is balance. But if they seek to do otherwise, then they are creating an image of themselves that is not a reflection of the God within them. Man must come to see that he is spirit turned inside out, that he is a manifestation of God, which is all love and balance. And if he cannot see that image of himself, that which he creates will be contrary to that which is of God. In human relations, if there's to be balanced unity, one must give in service to another, followed by equal regiving by the other. And you and I know that seldom is there equality in the giving and regiving in relationships.
No.
I have been taught, and I was taught this many years ago, that the best relationships have a natural rhythm, which is premised on giving and regiving. So we see how many people experience frustration, anger, and resentment when there is lack of balance interchange between either themselves, or let us say they're in a commercial world, between themselves and their employers. How many people complain about their employers day in, day out? Oh, I give so much, I work so hard, what do I get in return? Nothing, very little. There is little balance. Maybe now might be appropriate time for your break. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think we can definitely take this opportunity to go
You
to
would
a
like
break.
to add anything?
Yeah, definitely. So we'll do that. In fact, now, Hazel, Sinanan, we'll go straight to the break at this point, and we'll come back in a few more moments to continue on. This is the Source Radio Fremantle 107.9 in association with AbundantHope.net. Telepath, channeler, healer Hazel Sinanan will be back in just a few moments. Stay with us. And welcome back, folks. This is the second part of the recorded interview with Hazel Sinanan from, she's talking to us from London in the United Kingdom. Now, Hazel, if you were only just joining us, just to remind you, this is an author, this is a channeler, a healer, a teacher, divine one at that. She has two websites I'd like to make you aware of. PathToFreedomIsTruth.com, fantastic collection of insights, wisdom, and knowledge from the Celestials. And also her healing website is celestialhealing.org. Now, celestialhealing.org, there's a plethora, a range of modalities of healing. Hazel is a master of many, and I would highly, highly suggest you get onto that website and check it out, so you too can become more aware of what she does, and also interact with Hazel and make use of one of her services there. Hazel can be contacted via the website. There is a contact email that is available there. She also has her number to call as well. You can do that. And the wonderful thing about your services, Hazel, as we briefly mentioned, was that they're available online or on the phone or on Skype. I mean, you don't even need to be in the room. That's right.
Yes, that's correct.
Which is fantastic, because as I've seen on the testimonials page there on your new website, is you've been dealing with people from all over the world, countries, my country, other countries, the Americas and the UK and everywhere. It's fantastic that you can connect with people like that, right?
Yes, indeed it is.
And we were speaking briefly about you starting your webinars, and we won't get too much into that, but I hope to see those very soon, because I'll be joining them for sure. Check out the website, folks. Now, Hazel, let's continue on. We were speaking about the law of balance and the way in which it's pertinent to our personal lives. Did you want to continue on from that?
Yeah, I just want to end off by talking about balance in prayer and what I have been taught. Okay. I have been taught that God will give us what we desire, but going back to the law of balance, we must regive equally by the action of service to God through the service towards our fellow men. Okay? So God will give us what we desire, but we must regive equally through service to our fellow men. When we think about prayers, we tend to think about people sitting down and sometimes with their heads bowed very reverently and enumerating to God everything that they want God to bring into their lives or to give them. And if we are to look objectively at this, some of these prayers, obviously not all, but some of the prayers are often selfish. meaning that we are asking for things to be given without the intention of giving something in exchange. So let me give you an example. Let us say we pray to God for peace and happiness, but then we go away and we are unkind to our neighbor. Perhaps we engage in malicious gossiping or something of the sort. What we are not actually re-giving in balance, are we? Because if we are praying to God for peace, we have to give peace. Our actions must create peace in the lives of others. Likewise, it goes if we pray for happiness or prosperity. So let's say we pray for prosperity. A businessman prays for prosperity, but then he goes out and he cheats his customers by misselling or misrepresenting the products that he's selling. It's actually of a lower quality than he's advertised. How can he expect to be blessed with prosperity? He's breaching the law of balance there. So if he wants prosperity, he has to actually give prosperity. He has to be fair to others.
That makes sense, Hazel. That makes sense. But I've got to clarify, because I think there's a massive misrepresentation going on. When you talk about praying to God and asking for something, I know in my own experience, in my own life, I've been of the mind, when you ask for something of God, you're asking something for Him to give you. But what you're kind of saying is, if correct me if I'm not mistaken, if I am mistaken, you saying that in order for us to receive that which we might ask of our Creator, we need to give of a similar vein to others. We need to give of the love that you suggest God will give to us, this giving and re-giving. But people don't talk to God and ask for things because they want to give something. They talk to God and ask for things because they want Him to give them something. So what you're saying is you can't receive that which you might ask from God unless you're willing to give in a similar fashion to your fellow men. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I'm saying that the law of balance is based on giving and re-giving. So, sorry, if we seek peace, so we pray for peace, but we're creating war with our neighbor, how can we ever get peace from God? How could we be blessed with peace? Do you follow what I'm saying?
I understand.
So yes, in a way, we have to re-give. For certain things, we do have to re-give that which we seek. And I'm going to talk more about that when I look at prayer as a topic or theme on its own.
Sure.
So I will look at the different tangents of prayer. This is just one of it.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, so basically, I wanted to show how the law of balance can work in prayer so that your prayer can be answered. And so again, just go back to the example I gave. If you want peace and happiness and prosperity, well, you have to give peace and happiness and prosperity. In other words, you have to balance your desires for peace by giving peace, etc., or else your prayer will be voided.
But you're saying that the responsibility of our prayers to be answered reside within ourselves.
Yes, it resides within ourselves. Why is that? Because we have the power to give ourselves everything we desire. And that is what I'm going to teach when we look at the theme of prayer. Yeah. And that's why sometimes people wonder, well, I've prayed for prosperity. Why does God not answer?
Exactly, Hazel. This is a huge one. I mean, because people pray to God and they kind of wish to relinquish their own responsibility for their own happiness by saying, God, give this to me. I relinquish my power to you. I give I worship you and I make you the boss. You're the man. Now give me what I want and expect that to be made manifest through some kind of separate entity that lives in the clouds. Yet you're saying that's not possible without our cooperation and our relationship and responsibility with Spirit.
Yes, that is exactly correct. And I'll speak a bit more about that shortly. But yes, you have to, prayer is born out of a desire. And God will give you that which you desire, but you have to work with Him to fulfill the desire. He's not going to work for you. He will work with you because He's part of you.
It's so important, this thing. I know you're going to get to it. I'm so sorry I keep cutting, but this is the experience of my life. It makes me want to harm my head against a brick wall because I have this experience where people tell me that they, they expect things from God. Why doesn't He answer these things? They're not interested in becoming a participant in their own happiness or a participant in improving their own lives. They expect some separate entity to extend down from the clouds with a mighty hand and with a lightning bolt change their reality. They don't want the responsibility. They refuse to cooperate and participate in their own unfoldment. It's bizarre and it just irritates me, as you can tell. But that's,
Exactly.
I can't wait to hear more about this prayer, this modality. Please, sorry, continue.
Yeah. So basically, God will give you what you desire, but you must re-give equally through service to your fellow men. So that's just one aspect I'm speaking about. The aspect that you've raised, which is extremely significant, I'll be addressing this shortly.
Please.
But just to bring an end to this particular topic of but the law of balance,
Yes.
Please know that it works and must work in every facet or aspect of your life, even your physical health, your personal well-being. So if a person, let's say, has developed liver problems through excess drinking of alcohol, and they ask God to heal their liver, well, what they're asking God to do is to eliminate the effects of the illness. But if they continue to drink, they are continuing with the cause, aren't they? There's no
Yes.
balance there. So God is giving,
No.
but they are not giving
No.
by doing their part.
No.
So the cause of the illness is, in fact, the person's defiance of the law of balance. And remember, balance is balance, and it's total harmony and equilibrium. Excess is the antithesis of balance. So if you experience excessive emotions of anger, grief, worry, all of these things can create energetic blockages in your auric or electromagnetic field, which can eventually manifest in disease. And therefore, you have to take responsibility for your actions, your thoughts, your responses to events, activities, and people in your life.
Can you say that again?
Otherwise, yes, you have to take responsibility for your actions, your thoughts, your projections, and your interactions, and your responses to everything in your life, basically.
This is crucial, Hazel. I'm sorry, I heard you the first time, but when you say responsibility, you mean like everything, right? The words come out of your the words that come out of your mouth, the things that you do, the things that you say, the decisions that you make, every single aspect of your life needs to be taken responsibility, right?
Yes, and only then will you experience balance and harmony. Why? Because you will measure every thought, every action, every projection, every deed, every creation against the law of balance. And you will know when you are not in balance, because you will feel unhappy, you will feel ill, you will feel out of sorts, you will feel not in control, you will not feel centered. This is how your energetic and physical body is speaking to you and saying, well, get me back in order, get me back to that my natural state of balance and harmony. But how many people listen to what their body or energy is saying to them? Not many.
Not enough.
And that is why there is so much unhappiness. That is why there's so much imbalance, because no one wants to take responsibility.
Oh, Hazel.
The secret of life is to learn how to balance our activities, our transactions, so that the giving and the re-giving are equal and in balance with each other. We cannot take responsibility for another, but we can certainly take responsibility for ourselves.
We stand as a race, as a civilization, as humankind on the brink of some terrible disasters. War is proliferating everywhere. The disasters on the earth the problems with our structures in our societies, our financial systems, our economy, our cultures, our sense of morality, of justice, of ethical righteousness, of fairness. All these things stand in limbo and unbalance. And what you suggest is so easy. It's so simple, and I can see it before myself, and it frustrates me. I'm sitting here, but I just think, you know, it's so right what you're saying, and this responsibility, if we can just grasp it and understand that we have the power within ourselves to take responsibility, to bring ourselves back from the brink, if we were to just change the way in which we think and our sense of purpose and responsibility as brothers and sisters under one creation. I mean, it's just well said. And people look for complex solutions, Hazel. It just seems so proliferant right now. The people are looking for some of the biggest problems that we face. We have think tanks, we have societies, the governments have, special bodies dedicated to some of these big problems, and everyone ums and ahs and oohs and ers and can't work out what we are to do. And yet what you're suggesting is so logical. It's so simple. It's so within each and every person's mind to grasp and to make a difference. And yet some reason it's not digestible or palpable for the masses that might be so. But I really hope that this people listening to this program and hearing what you're saying about responsibility, I think responsibility should be the word of the decade.
Yes, I agree with you.
Because if we would just learn that it is our responsibility to make the changes and see the world we want to live in, we would be dealing with a different paradigm altogether. I'm sorry for that rant, but you're drawing this passion out of me. This is a topic close to my heart. Please continue, please.
Right, so I want to move on now to the theme of prayer, and there was a reason why I chose to look at this theme subsequently to the law of balance, because as I've shown you or attempted to illustrate, the law of balance and its outworkings is extremely important for you to understand within the context of prayer. But I want to share a different perspective, and I want to share with you, first of all, something that I read, and then I pondered what I read with God for some further clarification. I remember reading, "Let your prayers be for everything and everyone except yourself, for in this manner only can that which you desire and seek come unto you. When you have learned the secret of the ancients, so shall you have learned the secret of life. That is, you cannot expect to receive that which you already have." So I pondered this with God through meditation, and I said, "Well, Father, what does this mean? What really is prayer?" And he said, prayer is a commemoration of oneness. It is the unification of the finite with the infinite to bring you into remembrance of your oneness with me and into the knowledge that you already have that for which you have asked. In other words, because you are one with me, that is one with God, and you are a manifestation of me, you have the power to give yourself what you desire. And what you should do is to treat prayer as a return to oneness, so that I can enable you by showing you how to unfold for yourself that which you desire. In other words, do not treat prayer as an appeal to me, meaning appeal to God in separation from me, but treat it as a communion between yourself, the divine man, to the divine God in man. And I wanted to give the example of someone who might be going through a difficult problem. And I like to give examples because I think, people can relate to practical examples.
Definitely.
If you have a difficult problem in your life and you're a prayerful person, you go to God, you want to offload, get it off your chest, you feel a bit better, that's fine. But is that enough? Are you asking God to take the problem away from you? Are you asking God to solve the problem for you? it might be better, and this is from my personal experience, because I find when I do this, I become empowered. It reminds me that I have the power and ability to tap into the solution myself once I remember who I am through that oneness with God. So it is better if you share your experience with God and ask Him to think with you that you may receive an inspired solution. So you're not asking Him to solve your problem, but you're asking Him to inspire within your thinking a solution. Or you might ask Him to think with you to help you see the experience from a different perspective, or to think with you that you may receive a deeper insight as to how you would have better dealt with the experience or issue. When you approach prayer in this way, and I'm talking about as it relates to that particular problem you might have, you are working with God instead of requesting or requiring God to work for you by simply giving you the solution without any input from you. Asking Him to do the work for you is shirking your responsibility to come into your God self, to come into your true power, to come into the deeper knowing that you have the answers within you. Because you come in oneness with God through prayer, through that communion, you will receive the answer you need. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, and I'm pondering the words that you speak, and it's interesting how, even from the get-go, you speak about this idea that prayer is about, in order to receive that which you desire, make the prayers not about yourself, but about others and for their benefit. It's interesting, it ties in very well with this concept you speak about giving and re-giving of love in order for you to receive. It really is, as well as has been said before, it is in through service that we receive. It's how the law of nature works. It all ties in very neatly, Hazel.
Yes, yes. And when we enumerate, we give God a list of our desires. Some of us even put it down to a time. We want it by this time.
Yes.
So we're telling God how He can serve us, but we are
Yes.
not thinking as to what we will give. And in so doing, what are we doing? We are making ourselves into our own selfish image and not in the image of the God within us. As I said earlier on, God will fulfill our every desire, but we have to work with God to fulfill it.
Right. And here's that responsibility thing again.
Precisely. And in truth, when we ask God to give us the things we desire, we are asking Him to show us His love for us, isn't it?
Yes.
By giving to us what we want. But have we ever thought about the fact that God wants love from us also? How are we going to re-give love to God? Well, perhaps by being kind and loving and generous and caring, by honoring all life force in God's creation.
Yes.
It's going back to the law of balance as applied to prayer. God will give you what you desire, but you must re-give equally by serving God through service to your fellow men. So another practical example that people might relate to. So let us say, we have many wars going on. Let us say that a mother prays to God for God to, let's say, extend His loving protection to her son who is sent overseas to fight in a war.
Yes.
Now, how can she re-give to God love? How can she re-give love to God to equal, to create that balance? Well, she could extend her love equally to other mothers' sons who have been sent to war. So when she's praying for her son, she could include in her prayer that God also bless other mothers' sons who have been sent to war. Then she will be in the re-giving. What she's doing is moving away from selfish prayer to selfless prayer. For only then shall we be in the re-giving. It's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, it is, and it's a completely different approach. You talk about man being largely deceived and misinformed about a lot of the laws in which the natural kingdom works through, and it seems that prayer is as well another example of this. In as much as we are mostly, I would venture 99.9% of our prayers are of a selfish nature, and they can be of a list format. They can be, I want this and I want that and I want it now, or I want it tomorrow or next week or whatever. And for the majority, I wouldn't imagine people would be praying for others in their own prayers. It's almost like, the information is largely misinformation as to how we need to do it. So this is very good stuff. This is great.
Yeah, because they don't see everybody as one with them. And that's why I taught at the very beginning when I did the first interview with you about the law of one, what oneness means, how we cannot be separate from our brothers and sisters of the soul. All right, so we have to think collectively, we have to think as a whole, because we all affect the entire dynamic. Now, let me give you a slightly different tangent. This same mother, let us say she prays very devoutly, very sincerely, with love from her heart for her son, but then she turns angrily upon her friend or neighbor. What do you think happens to her prayer?
It doesn't get answered.
It's void, right? Remember the law of one. We are all one in God, and God is all there is. God does not hurt any part of himself, and we must follow this too.
Okay. Yeah.
What about if someone asks God to bless their business and help it prosper? Well, God will answer the prayer when perhaps that businessman goes out into his business or his industry or plant and bless all in it and helps to make them prosperous. So do you see how the regiving comes in?
I can see that, but your whole paradigm, this picture that you're painting, Hazel, suggests that the entirety of mankind or womankind, you know what I'm talking about, is facets or children of God, shall we say. Every man, every woman, every child. Nature, the animals, every aspect is of God. It's this creative force. It's the manifestation of God through action from a vast potential of infinite possibility. So everyone and everything is God. And we're supposed to be treating each other as God because that's all that we are. But that means our current behavior is way off standard. I mean, we're killing each other, we're feeding each other poisonous stuff, we're poisoning our air, water, food, killing all the animals and destroying all life on this planet. Your paradigm doesn't seem to be prevalent from where I'm sitting, and I'm thinking this might be one of the problems we're currently experiencing.
Yes, people do not understand. We cannot simply sit and ask in prayer for what we want without taking positive action. And taking positive action not only means doing our part, but it means being in the regiving.
Yes.
We have to reach out for our desire. God will fulfill our desire if we work with him to fulfill it. But if we sit and we just ask him to bless our business and then we feel we could go out and cheat our employees, well, I'm sorry, it's not, there's no balance there.
No.
It's better if we go to God and we say, Father, I do wish my business to be prosperous. Can you show me by shining your light on my path as to what I should do to bring my desire to fruition? What can I do to be in the giving so that my desire can be fulfilled?
Okay.
It will serve one better to pray in that way.
Okay, I understand. So, all right, so I can incorporate this. So basically, when we pray, we need to think of some way that we can bless or make benefit to others, and in that way, we will receive that which we desire. Is that right?
Precisely.
Okay,
Precisely.
So if I was to say, okay, let's say tomorrow I go for a job interview and I want to pray about that interview that I get that job. I really want that job. I need to get it. I really want to. This is my dream job. I would pray to God. I sit down and I would say, what would I say, Hazel? I would say, Divine Father, I ask that when I go for this job tomorrow, I do very well, and the person with whom I interview with is blessed with good health, and that they might see positive. I mean, what could
Yes.
I do with this?
Yes, I certainly think that there are several things you can do with that. You simply go and say, Father, I am going to this interview tomorrow. I ask that your presence will be within me so that you can use your voice box to answer the questions in the way that needs to be answered in my highest and best interest. But I also ask you, Father, that whilst I'm sitting across the panel that will be interviewing me, that you reach out, Father, from within me and bless each and every one of them. For you know their needs. I do not know their needs, Father, but I ask you to attend to them with grace and love.
Right. So in that manner, I've incorporated this regiving, in which is now we realize an integral part of the process of prayer.
And yes, and then you can say, should it be in accordance with your will, Father, that I undertake this job, or this job is mine, I will be in the regiving. And you can think of ways, depending on whatever the job is, how you will be undertaking that job. I'm not talking about the technical aspects of it, but I'm talking about the God that you will bring into the work. Do you follow?
Understood. So you could say, and with this job, work through me to unfold your will,
Yes.
in the workplace that I now will work within. So okay, I get it. I think I get it. So what I need to do is just, it really does cast an entirely different shadow on the process of prayer, in as much as it's not just sitting there and saying, I want A, B, C, D, E, and F, and I'd like it in this time frame. Suddenly, this is good. I can do this. So we just need to be more thoughtful about what we ask for, and ask in a way that
Yes.
incorporates the other children of God in the process. I think this can work, and we will see a really this in this way we will see the type of answers to our prayers that we're looking for. Is that right?
Precisely, precisely. Okay. And I want to touch on something you referred to much earlier, where you say how we pray in separation from God as if God is outside of ourselves. And
Yes.
yeah, and the lie of separation engenders that. Oneness with God really means assuming self-responsibility. And you know, in this world, many say, well, this world is hard enough as it is, so it's easier to put the responsibility on someone else. So why don't we just pray to God, leave it up to Him? When He doesn't do what He has to do, well, we blame Him. All
Oh
right?
yeah, yeah. Mm.
So when we pray to God to put an end to the wars and He doesn't, well, surely He is to blame. Well, I have news for anyone who believes that is for falsity, because God gave man free will with a hope that, he would exercise that will in accordance with the nature of God, which is balance. What you're doing when you pray to God to stop the wars is that you are, in fact, asking God to let you defy His law of balance without suffering from its effects. And then you go and blame Him for your own actions in breaking His law. So, newsflash, God will not stop the wars, for He will not interfere with the exercise of man's free will. Only they who caused the war or contributed to it must stop. Again, if we as individuals haven't given the word for war, well, it might serve us better to pray for God to show us how we can go about bringing an end to the war or influencing its end, or perhaps pray for those who have the power to bring the war to an end to do so, or simply, and this might be a bit too late now, but ask God to help us to discern lies from truth so that we exercise pure reason, being God's reason, when voting politicians into power.
Yeah, yeah.
But no, we must not blame God for the wars. And I know there are people who say, well, if there was a God, there will not be these wars. Or if there was a God, He would
Yes.
end these wars.
Yes, all
Why
the
are you putting
time.
God?
Yes.
Man doesn't want to take responsibility because he sees himself as separate from God, and it is time for this to come to an end.
Oh, Hazel, it is one of the most common things I hear. The frustration in the voices of the people when they slam the fist down and say, "I don't understand. How can there be a God? How can there be a God that would let this type of thing? What type of God would do this? How can it be possible?" I spoke to an atheist. That's why I believe God doesn't exist. I cannot understand that there would be a God that would let this out of control world take place, and He would let it go on. But this is a fundamental flaw in that they're just They refuse to take. How can you not take any responsibility for the state of the world and the way it is? The state of the world and the way it is exact repercussion of our actions and the way we behave.
Precisely.
It's brutally obvious. And yet it seems that mankind, in all its technological advancement and self-glorification, is unwittingly or unwillingly willing to take responsibility for its action. And that does not bespeak to me of a civilization of any level of maturity.
That is excellent. You're so right in what you're saying. Man wants God to love them, but they don't want to love God back or love their brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
They don't want to take responsibility for their thoughts and their actions. It's always easier to blame God, isn't it? But eventually each will have to face the God within themselves.
Yeah.
Now, be careful when you pray that you do not pray to someone or something that you created in your own image. Many people say they pray to God, but they're not really praying to God, because God is only love. They are praying to someone they've created in their own image. So let me give you an example. Let's say someone is praying and say, "Oh, Father, don't punish me, but have mercy upon me, for I have sinned." Well, that person is not praying to the God of love, and God is only a God of love. That person does not know God, because that person does not know love. That person has created a God of anger and fear, who he or she prays to. Their idol is fear and wrath, and therefore they cannot know God. Their prayers will not be answered, because they haven't prayed to God. They have prayed to an idol that they have created in their own image. So they have to know love. They have to come into the knowing of love before they can free themselves from their idols of wrath and fear. So atheists do not know God. They don't believe in God. They don't know love. Because to know love is to know God, and to know God is to know the ecstasy of eternal oneness. So I do not buy anything that any one of them have to say, because anybody who blames God, as you rightly say, they have not attained a state of spiritual maturity. The dawn of pure reason hasn't opened up or awakened within them.
Yes, and we're seeing very much the outworkings of this sense of or lack of responsibility and the immaturity of spiritual enlightenment in this civilization. And hopefully in a manner that people like yourself are helping to awaken that sense of responsibility in man. And I do feel like it is the time for that kind of spiritual awareness and advancement and unfoldment. You mentioned this at the beginning of the interview. You said at this time, this is an auspicious time of sorts, because it does seem like there seems to be a greater amount of unfoldment and realization, maybe more limited than we'd like. But I do see on the radio program a lot, it is a time where it seems like people are being forced off the fence. The fence of indecision, of lack of responsibility, of unwillingness to participate, forced off the side one way or the other to take a stand and to have a say and to become a participant. And this is exciting.
Yes, it is. It is. Very, very exciting times. Yeah. I asked the father, I said, how to pray? Because, people pray in different ways. And he said to me, he says, listen, prayer is simply based on a desire that must come from the soul. He says, I am not moved by meaningless, superfluous words from the mouth. You must feel the sincerity in your heart. He says, like, silent prayer will actually bring greater realization of the divine, because you begin to hear intelligence emanating from the silence. So he gave me an example, and he actually gave me this yesterday. He says, if a man feels or believes that for his prayer to be heard, he must kneel with head bowed in reverence, there is nothing you can say to persuade him otherwise until he's ready to let go of that belief. He says to me, I do not require anyone to bow to me in reverence using their physical body. He says reverence must come from a feeling in the heart, for then I know you are sincere. And he went on to say to me, I wish to encourage man to remove himself from the ancient ways of doing things. He must come to see himself as one with me. I do not need him to grovel, implore, cajole, or negotiate with me. He belittles the God within himself when he does this. He must simply come in equality, notwithstanding that he may not feel that he's equal to me. He is in fact one with me. What I am, he is. But until he can master that, in other words, until he can master his finite form and find what he calls God freedom, I will work with him in partnership as equals. I will give to him what he seeks, but he must re-give equally. And I said to him, I said, Father, if you can give a definition of prayer or an explanation in a simple way of what prayer is, what will you say? And he says, prayer is the communion between man and the God within man, that he may be reminded of who he is and discover his power to unfold for himself that which he desires. He says to me, prayer should be a way of life. He calls it living in action, where daily one remains in moment-to-moment communion with the divine, that one may always be in the giving and re-giving of that which is given unto him.
I see. that is wonderfully put, and it does speak to me as if you're that came straight from the God mind itself. Because is that on your website, Path to Freedom? Is
No,
true? No.
I channeled that, but I will be doing a piece on prayer to encapsulate this discussion here.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, that is a magnificent. It's the type of information that one needs to ponder and spend time on. But I'd like to reiterate to our listeners that the website that you have, especially in terms of that kind of esoteric information, the website Path to Freedom is Truth is a fantastic tool to spend time on and to ponder and to awaken an awareness that mankind seems to be sorely lacking at this time. And I'm so blessed to have Hazel on board and giving us some insight into her work. So thank you for that. Now, Hazel, we are coming up to close to the 15-minute mark in terms of what we have left in this hour. Okay. Would you like to speak further on prayer or any other topics, or shall we perhaps do a meditation?
Yes, we can do the meditation.
Okay, then let's do that.
All right. So this is what I call the feeling body meditation. It was created by someone who taught or who created the program called Angelic Reiki. And I think that it is an excellent meditation to help you to connect with what is called your feeling body or your emotional body, which is one of your four lower bodies. Because as I said before, all dimensional levels of consciousness exist in this time and space. You just need to know how to tap into it. All right, so find a comfortable space to do this. If you're at home, simply relax, close your eyes and take 2 deep breaths. For anyone who is driving, please do not close your eyes. Also at home, with your eyes closed, I want you to recognize what you perceive as feeling. Your consciousness is connected to your physical body. What are the sensations that your physical body is giving to you in this moment? You will be feeling the pressure on your physical body, and this will be relayed to you as a feeling. Your consciousness will be interpreting this feeling and creating a thought form in your consciousness that will then be giving you information about the reality you find yourself in. So connect with the sensations that your physical body is relaying to you. What does this feel like? How does your body interpret feeling and pressure? Can you feel the density of your physical body? As you go more into feeling, I want you now to move feeling beyond the confines of the shape of your physical body. What does the energy around your physical body feel like? This is that space which we deem to call the emotional body. What are the emotions you are feeling in this moment? Are you happy, sad, joyful, angry? What is the emotional feeling that you are creating in this moment? Let go of what you perceive the shape of your physical body to be, and allow yourself in this moment to feel the perfect vehicle for your consciousness. You could be thin, fat, small, tall, of a different ethnic race, younger than you are now, or even older. You could even be non-human. What does that feel like? In this moment, what is the most perfect color that you perceive yourself to be? And if you were emitting a sound, a tone, what would that sound like? We all hold an image of ourselves which can be vastly different from the actual shape that we inhabit as the physical body. I would like you now to extend your feeling body. This feeling awareness, or your feeling awareness, out into the room that you find yourself in. Can you feel the walls around you? Can you feel their density? Are you picking up the vibration of the room and its contents? How is your consciousness interpreting this? If there was another reality in this room, what would that be? Are there other beings in this room? Can you feel their presence? As this feeling comes into your consciousness, your mind will access the database of your experiences and come up with the closest reference to fit what you perceive. All beings are naturally radiating a color and a sound. How is your consciousness in this moment interpreting that for you? Now I want you to extend your feeling body beyond the confines of the room that you are in, out into the reality that exists beyond this space. You will become aware of sounds that are coming from beyond this room. How is your consciousness interpreting these? If you are hearing bird songs, what effect is that having on your feeling body? If you are hearing the wind or the waves lashing against the shore, what effect is that having on your feeling body? Is the bird song, wind, or waves, or whatever you're hearing, creating a color? And if so, what is it? All the other noises that are coming to you from beyond the confines of the room you are in, how are they affecting you as a feeling being? And what reality is it creating for you in your consciousness? If there was another reality beyond the confines of the room you are in, what would that be? In this moment, you are experiencing in third dimensional reality, but you have extended your consciousness or allowed your consciousness to perceive the fourth dimensional reality, which is always here. This awareness is now becoming more potent as part of our natural senses in which we perceive the world around us. Now, in full awareness that your senses are always working at this level, allow yourself now to connect back to the feelings that your physical body is still giving you. Feel the sensations generated by your body as it sits or lies as consciousness into this third dimensional reality. And in your own time, open your eyes and take a deep breath. That's it.
And that's it. That's it. Well, that's
Were you able to participate in that?
I was, it's as I've found in my own personal experience, and for those who are experienced in or participants in discovering or adventuring into their inner mind and their inner, I say the inner mind, the inner world, the God mind, whatever you call it, it's quite an adventure, and where you can take it and the possibilities that the God mind encapsulates are the possibilities of God himself. So in reality, it's just a stupendous array of opportunity when you are willing to go within and discover what there is to be found. And what I find wonderful, Hazel, is the way in which you've put together these exercises for people to learn from themselves some of the opportunities that are available through meditation and through their inner selves, their inner minds. So it's wonderful. It's great. And I did get a chance to do that. And I would highly recommend for those people, I'm sure you'd agree with me, Hazel, that once we spend a much more ordinate amount of time on our inner minds and our inner worlds, as well as our external worlds, as much time, we will open up a whole new realm of opportunities to serve.
Yeah.
And become more aware of our reality,
Yes.
huh?
I think that this particular meditation was really to help those who haven't much experience in meditating to start working with energy and to perceive energy outside of themselves so that they could begin to tap into a new reality and realize that all dimensions are in one place. So the more they do this, the more they're going to be able to experience. You would be amazed what people can pick up and what they begin to tap into the more they do this particular feeling body awareness meditation. One thing I would like to say before I end is what came to mind this morning actually was something that the Father channeled through me. It could have been a couple of years ago, but I thought it was fitting for me very briefly to share it with your audience, because why have I chosen to come to teach this now? Because I consider myself to be an emissary of the truth and a emissary of the light, and there are many lighthouses, light workers. The Father calls them shepherds. And I just want to quickly say to you what he said to me. He says, onward, children, onward, bear the golden torch, beacons to the rescue, ardent for the cause. March with me to victory, a new world to behold. My rod and staff I give to you, be shepherds to my fold. God has so much love for his children that he has sent his ones, all of us who are light workers, to bear the golden torch, which is the torch of truth and the torch of light, to be beacons to the rescue, to remove the children of God from the mantle of lies that threaten to suffocate the very life of their souls, and to bring them back into the fold where they could experience oneness with God, true love and harmony, that we may all march to victory, to behold that beautiful new world. Blessed be in love and purest light to each and every one of your members of your audience.
And to you as well, Hazel. That is as fitting an end to the interview as I can possibly imagine, and it's indicative of the state of your mind and the stage of your spiritual evolution, that your words are poetic and they are fantastic, and I'm so very glad again that you're able to come on to this show, Hazel. I'm very, very grateful. Thanks for doing it again. It's already been 2 hours, but it always flashes by like a bullet train, because we really do encapsulate so much information in such a small amount of time. Thank you for coming on again,
You're
Hazel.
welcome.
I really appreciate it, and no doubt I'll bug you again. So be aware that you might have to make a reappearance, because, in my opinion, this information is so incredibly crucial and intertwined with our evolution at this time, and so we need to make it bring it more to the forefront of our mind space, so that it sits more comfortably and integrated with who we are and how we act and our spiritual responsibility. So, Hazel, thank you so much again. All right. It's been a real...
So for having me in humility and service, I thank you.
As always. Thank you very much. So make sure, folks, Hazel Sinananshi is available for counseling, for a whole range of teaching modalities, healing modalities. Visit her website, celestialhealing.org. Get there, do it. I did it myself, and I am truly impressed with the service that she can provide. And also her other website, pastoftreedomistruth.com, for more wonderful wisdom from Hazel Sinanan. Thank you so much again. This has been the Source Radio Fremantle 107.9 FM in conjunction with AbundantHope.net. Fantastic website for research, similar wisdom and knowledge for your perusal. Folks, thanks for joining us again this evening. It's been another fantastic interview. I appreciate your attending with us. We'll see you next time for another interview, and good night.